Are you struggling to set up a proxy for the Microsoft Git Provider in Visual Studio? You're not alone. Many users face this challenge, and today we're going to solve it together. I totally get how frustrating it can be when you have to use a proxy to connect to your Git server, but you can't find where to set it in Visual Studio. It's a common issue, and we're here to help you navigate through it. Here's the specific question we're addressing today. One user asked, how can I save proxy details for the Microsoft Git Provider in Visual Studio? They mentioned they could set the proxy in Git Bash, but couldn't find a way to do it in Visual Studio. Sound familiar? Let's dive in. So, why is this happening? Visual Studio doesn't have a direct option to set the proxy for the Microsoft Git Provider like Git Bash does. This can be confusing, but don't worry. We'll walk through the steps to get it set up. And stick around. At the end of this video, I'll share a quick tip that will make managing your Git connections a breeze. To set the proxy for the Microsoft Git Provider in Visual Studio, the user should first open Visual Studio and navigate to the settings. Next, the user needs to find the Git settings within the Options menu. This is where they can configure the proxy settings. Now the user should look for the HTTP proxy section. Here they can enter the proxy details. After entering the proxy details, the user should save the changes. This will ensure that Visual Studio uses the specified proxy for Git operations. Finally, the user can test the configuration by trying to clone a repository or perform a Git operation in Visual Studio. Fun fact, did you know that the first version control systems were created in the 1970s? They were much simpler than what we have today, but they laid the groundwork for modern tools like Git. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. An alternative solution shared by a user involves locating a specific folder in Visual Studio 2017. They point out that you can find a file named gitconfig in the directory for Team Explorer. This file allows you to set your proxy configuration directly for Visual Studio. Now, let's see a response from a different user. An alternative approach suggested by another user involves creating a .gitconfig file in your user folder. First, navigate to your user directory, then create the file. Inside, you'll need to add your name, email, and proxy details. Make sure to include the correct format for the proxy settings. Here's a quick tip. Always keep your proxy settings documented. This way, if you switch networks or need to troubleshoot, you have all the information at your fingertips. And there you have it. You've successfully set up your proxy for the Microsoft Git Provider in Visual Studio. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more tips and tricks, and remember to check out our other videos for more tech solutions.